We have 3 blocks done. Are you ready for another 3? Hey everyone, Cristin here, and we are continuing with our We Whisk You a Merry Christmas quilt. So we have 3 blocks done so far. Oh boy, this is gonna be so cute. I love baking. So when I saw this quilt, I was like, yes, please. This was several years ago. Like I mentioned, this has been retired, but we are finally getting to it and really enjoying it. So I'm loving hearing about your goals. Don't forget, at the end of this video, I always share my current goal, and I ask you to share about your goal in the comments. So yesterday I told you about my first 200-mile bike ride that also had quite a crash in it. So today I've got another story for you after we get our work done. So today we are going to work on the peppermint blocks. So the peppermint blocks, grab your packet. I put mine all together, 4, 5, and 6. So we're going to get another 3 blocks done today. So the peppermint blocks, they're very little, and I'm going to show you how to join them together in one grouping if you choose. You can absolutely do the 3 blocks in separate hoopings if you prefer. That's totally fine, but they are little, so it's pretty easy to join them together in one hooping to save on time, save on stabilizer. So if you decide to do that, you can do it on your machine. I'm not super proficient with that, but I'm much more proficient with embroidery software, and like I showed in yesterday's tutorial, I use Embellishment Essentials. This one will be an easier one than yesterday. We ran into some hiccups yesterday because of the older design not being digitized in a way to fit within the quilt, but we worked it out. It all worked out great. So we got those done, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone posting theirs. One person, Anita, already did hers. Like, I did finish that tutorial late last night, and this morning she already had them done. So very impressive. All right, so let's go over what we need for today. So the peppermint blocks, I think they were on page 9. Let me just look real quick here. I didn't write that on my packets. I usually write the page number on my packets. It's actually on page 10. So the peppermint blocks on page 10. I've got quite a few notes on here, but that's okay. Don't worry. We're going to get through them together. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what we need for our peppermint blocks. There are 3 blocks, and I'm going to give you the information all together because, like I said, I'm going to do mine in one hooping. You can absolutely choose to do them separately. It doesn't matter at all. The outcome is going to be exactly the same. All right, so the first one, the peppermint 1, there's peppermint 1, peppermint 2, peppermint 3. So peppermint 1, our main fabric, our background fabric, is this black with white dots on it. Make sure to back your main fabric at least with fusible stabilizer. I do it on my applique pieces as well, but at least do your main fabric so that you don't get any puckering. All right, peppermint 1, so our main fabric, this is going to be 4.5 by 4.5, all right? Our start size for our main fabric is 4.5 by 4.5. We always cut it down after we're all done with the stitching because the stitching pulls in, especially if you have not stabilized very well, it will pull in the stitches, and that's why I tell you, just a quick little reminder, if you don't take out those basting stitches, and if you're using the basting stitches as a cut guide, which I really don't recommend, and I talked about it in my first video, but if you are going to do that, just make sure to measure your block. As long as your block still measures what it's supposed to measure out at when we finish it, then you do you, right? But just be careful with that. All right, so, and since these are going to be small cuts, I will use my basting stitches, but I'll show you that I'm going to measure it first before I use my basting stitch because we don't have pop rollers that are that size. We have little pieces of ones, but anyway, so this is for peppermint 1, our main fabric, 4.5 by 4.5, all right? And then for peppermint 2, same thing, it's going to be 4.5 by 4.5, but now it is a very light gray, a very, very light gray with darker gray lines all over it. All right, and this one again, 4.5 by 4.5. This is for peppermint 2. Make sure and back it with fusible stabilizer for your main fabric. All right. And then for Peppermint number 3, if you bought the fabric kit years ago like I did, then you're going to find this fabric. So it is this green plaid fabric, and you're going to start with this at 4.5 by 4.5 backed with fusible stabilizer. If you bought the kit more recently from our sponsor, then you probably found, oops, I just dropped my vinyl. You probably found this, and I have a call. I'm going to say no to that call. Excuse me there. All right, so you'll find this green plaid fabric. So it's the newer version of the plaid, and either one of these will work great. But again, 4.5 by 4.5 for your main fabric. That one is for Peppermint 3. And then I dropped my vinyl. Hold on one sec. Okay, phone calls and dogs moving and fun stuff. All right, so on the next one. So for the, it's called, for the Peppermint itself, if you bought the embellishment kit, then you have this white glitter. Isn't this pretty? This is vinyl, white glitter. For glitter or for vinyl, do not back it. Leave it as is, how it comes from the embellishment kit. And if you didn't buy the embellishment kit, they gave you an option of using the white fabric with the white snowflakes on it. All right, really any fabric that you choose, but that's the one that they have in the cut guide if you didn't get the embellishment kit. So for this one, it's going to be 2.5 by 2.5, and you want 3 pieces, one for each of our 3 peppermint blocks. Okay, so I have one of them bigger because we had extra, and I figured, oh, I'm just going to save whatever we don't use. So 2.5 by 2.5 for the applique glitter, the white applique glitter, or the white snowflake fabric. Either one will be fine. If you use the glitter vinyl, make sure not to back it with fusible stabilizer. For the white with the snowflakes, you can choose to back it with fusible stabilizer. I do on my applique pieces, but not when using vinyl. So also I want to mention, and I should have prepped it because I never seem to get it when I'm on filming. Oh, I got it. Look at that. Oh, little things in life, right? So on the glitter vinyl, it's got this plastic topping on it, and we are going to take that off right before we use it, or beforehand. It doesn't matter at all. And I'll show you that we are going to set it with an iron for like 15 seconds, just pressing it to set it. All right, but make sure to take off that that little topping. All right, from the glitter vinyl. All right, so 2.5 by 2.5, 3 of those, one for each of the peppermint blocks. We have 3 peppermint blocks we're going to do today. And then for the applique glitter swirl, we are going to use the, it's a red polka dot vinyl, all right? Red polka dot vinyl. I think this has been discontinued, but our sponsor was able to get it. So you should have it if you bought the embellishment kit, but if not, they gave you an option in the cut guide. You could use the red swirl fabric, and I happened to cut mine before I realized it was optional, so I have these extra that I'll put in my applique bin pieces. So this is going to be just like the other one. It's going to be 2.5 by 2.5, either the red polka dot applique vinyl or the red with scrolls on it vinyl, or not vinyl, sorry, fabric. All right, either one of those, 3 pieces, 2.5 by 2.5, and same thing as that white glitter vinyl. You want to make sure to take off that topping from the red polka dot one, and this one's not letting me do it right now. There it goes. Look at it. Is my day, I'm telling you. Should go buy a lotto ticket or something. All right, so on the red polka dot vinyl, same thing. It has that plastic coating on the top, so make sure to take that off before you put it down to use it on your project, and then we'll seal it with an iron out. And when we do that, just in case you don't watch far enough, make sure to cover that with a pressing cloth. All right, vinyls, you always make sure to press it with a pressing cloth, not the direct iron on it. All right, so that one is 3 pieces at 2.5 by 2.5, same as the white glitter vinyl. All right, and then we have our batting. So our final cut size of these is 2.5 by 2.5. So that means that we want batting that is 3 by 3. 3 pieces, one for each of the peppermint blocks, 3 pieces at 3 by 3. And we will trim it down in as part of that process of the quilting design. So speaking of quilting, So you can use any quilting design that is 2x2. So the ones that I chose for this project, and I haven't opened this one and checked it out yet. I'm saving that so that I can show you on the software portion of this video. But the ones that I chose are all the ones that are encapsulated within the design. They're not the ones that go off into the seams. Like think of plaid and lines, and those all go off into the seams. And this Peppermint covers most of the quilting. So hear me when I say you can use any quilting design you want, and if you happen to have a plaid or a lines, then you'll see more of the quilting if you choose to do that. The one that I've chosen for today is Christmas 2 because it's got peppermints and candy canes, and and little swirls, and I thought that would be really cute for this one. But again, I don't think we're going to see much of the quilting design, so that's why I mentioned that. But that's the one I've chosen. So Christmas 2, that's what I'm going to use in a 2x2 quilting design. So any quilting design that you want in a 2x2 for the 3 blocks. I'm going to do the same one on all 3 blocks. And like I said, I think a plaid or any of the ones that go out into the seams would look really cute too, because you'll see more of the quilting. So you do you, whatever works for you. There are special trim instructions. It says trim the block exactly on the cut line as stitched in machine step 6. We're going to have extra machine steps because we're quilting in the hoop. Each block will now measure 2.5 by 2.5. So again, we are going to use the basting stitch, or actually I think it has an actual cut line on this one, which will make it really easy for us to join them together in one hooping. But anyway, so we will use that. But again, be careful to measure it first, because if you don't measure it and you end up cutting right on that line and your stitches have pulled in, your block is now smaller than it's supposed to be, and might not be a big deal, but when you start piecing all these blocks together, it could be a problem. You could find that it doesn't fit right, and that can be quite frustrating. So you can see how these line up just right. If you're cutting and not using, if you're using that basting stitch and it turns out that your stitches have pulled in, then it could very well not fit together the way that it's supposed to. So that's why I always say, if you're going to use the basting stitch, it's not my personal recommendation, but if you do, make sure to measure your block first. All right, so that's all we need today. I think it's going to be a pretty easy day. I'm going to bring you over to the computer and show you how to merge those 3 blocks together if you choose. Completely up to you. You can do it on your machine if you're savvy that way, or you can do each one individually in a little 4x4 hoop. That would work too. Either way is totally fine. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey everyone, so I'm at my computer now, and I'm going to just quickly show you how to merge the 3 blocks together if you choose. Like I said, you can absolutely do this separately, or you can choose to learn how to use embroidery software a little bit, or you can try it on your machine too, whatever works for you. All right, so I'm going to open up Embellishment Essentials. That's the embroidery software I use. If you're in the market for embroidery software, please use my affiliate link. That will help the channel. So I downloaded the design this morning from Kimberbell. My hard drive failed a while ago. You may have heard about that, and I lost all of my designs. So thankfully I can just go on Kimberbell and re-download them. So I'm doing that little bits at a time so I don't feel too overwhelmed. But also it gives me an opportunity to show you how to open that file and bring it over, since that's a question that we get. So Christmas 2 is the one that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to look and see which one of these is the Christmas 2 right there. Christmas 2. All right, so here's the design. It is in a zipped file, so I have to unzip that first. So I just double click on it. I'm on a PC. It may be different on a Mac. I don't know. I don't do Mac stuff. So anyway, I've opened up the file. I'm going to click extract all and then extract. And excuse me, I haven't had lunch, so I'm drinking my little protein drink while we're doing this. All right, so it is extracting. It will create a new folder. I always just close both of them, and then I find that original one and I delete it, just so that I don't get confused on what's what and don't take up extra hard drive space. All right, so here's the unzipped one. I'm going to double click on that. open up the folder, go to embroidery files, block by block. We had questions on this already, even though it's been in the videos. Remember, we have the block by block technique, or we have the clear blue tiles technique. We are doing the block by block technique. And the reason is because then we have those 5 steps of the quilting that I showed on the first video. The clear blue tiles version only has the quilting design, not that placement and tack down steps. All right, so I'm clicking on the ones that I'm not going to use, that don't work for my machine. I only use Pez, so I'm just going to delete these, free up some hard drive space. All right, and then there is my Pez, and we want the 2x2. So remember, I mentioned this to you the other day, and I am going to do a video about this, but I purchased the thumbnailer program right here from Embellishment, and again, when you buy Embellishment Essentials, which is the software I use, or thumbnailer, or even any of the digitizing products, any of those products from Embellishment help my channel. So use my link. I've always got it on my videos. So here, in what this thumbnailer does is you can see the pictures so that you can easily see which design you're looking for. I really like that. That's pretty cool. I think it'll be even more cool when I use it for like finding designs for shirts and things, to be able to see it. All right, so here's the 2x2 design. You can see 2x2 Christmas 2, and this is what I was saying. You're not going to see much of anything. We want our block quilted because we're doing that throughout our blocks, but you're really not going to see it. So if you decide to do a plaid, would be really cute. That will go over into the edges, and you'll see that a little bit better. Not a whole lot because these are small blocks anyway, but I've already agreed to do Christmas 2. I've already told everyone that's what I'm going to do, so I'm going to stay with it. So now that my folder is unzipped and I can see all of my designs, I'm just going to drag it over here. All right, easy peasy. So right now I'm on my 8x12 hoop because that's what we used yesterday. I know that I can use a much smaller hoop. You can see how little these blocks are going to be, and we need 3 of them. You could do this in a 6x10 hoop. You could even actually do it in a 5x7 hoop. Let's take a look at that. So if I go up here to this preferences folder, click on that, and then I go to my 5x7 hoop. I was thinking 6x6, but I bet you we could even do it in a 5x7. Let's just see. I don't like things too tight. It stresses me out, but you absolutely can. You've got your own set of things. All right, so I'm going to close this. So if we're on our 5x7 hoop, it shows right down here at the bottom. All right, 5x7 hoop, and I'm going to go up to this compass button and click H for hoop, and that will zoom into the hoop so that I can see it best. All right, so while I have this, I'm going to click on this. See, here's those 5 steps of the quilting. All right, if you did the CBT version, you're only going to have that step. You won't have all of these placement and tack downs. You'll only have that. Some people were asking if it comes with the embroidery file, and it does not. It is with the quilting design. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I've got the 5 steps here. Excuse me, I'm just trying to drink my lunch real quick. So these blues and oranges, I mentioned in yesterday's video that these will join together, and so we want to change the colors super easily to be able to have them different. Now, one other thing is, when I told you the fabrics that we're using for today, one was black, one was green, one was a very light gray. So you could choose to use a white or a light gray for all of the quilting. I'm thinking actually I'm going to do that. So, or you could create a stop and have a stop to change your thread. You could use a black and a gray and a green if you want it, but again, you're not going to see this quilting design much, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I'm just going to use a light silver and do it on all 3 of them. I think that would look good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change these very quickly, and then we'll do a copy and paste and see what will fit. It looks like it's going to fit just fine. All right, so we're on 1-1, so click on 1-1, then click on the color, and then the color, the thread options come up. So remember, I mentioned yesterday that I have Filtec Glide as my preferred thread color, and so these are the colors that come up for me. But it also doesn't matter what thread color you use. So I'm just choosing the first one that comes up for me. It's quick and easy. So for me, it is dark aqua, and I'm going to say okay. All right, that was 1-1. So now on 1-2, I'm going to click on the color, and the first color that comes up for me is Blaze. Say okay. And then 1-3, click on the color. Now, if we did this dark aqua again, then we've defeated the purpose, because you can see right here that we've already used dark aqua. So I'm going to use the second color down, which is Marine for me. All right, and then 1-4, click on the color, and we already used Blaze. You can see it right there. So I'm going to use Oriole and say okay. And again, it doesn't matter what thread colors you're using. You're separating them so that there's a stop, so that they don't join. All right. The parts that we want to join will join, and the parts that we don't want to join will not. All right, so then 1-5, I'm going to click on the color, and I'm going to choose the first color that comes up for me, which is Sprout. And this is what I was saying, that if you want a stop to change your thread colors and have different ones for each of your 3 blocks, then you would not choose Sprout on all of them. You would choose a different one on each one, and that's easy to do also. All right, so there are our 5 steps. I'm going to click outside because right now just that quilting design is highlighted. So click anywhere in the workspace or in this objects window, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to click on the whole design, and I'm going to move it up. And you can move it up by your arrow keys on your keyboard like I showed in yesterday's tutorial, or you can just grab it and move it. Whatever works, it doesn't matter. So I'm thinking a 6x6 will be better, because if this design is 3x3, probably, let's see, 2.5 by 2.5, sorry, 2.5 by 2.5. So when you click on the design down here next to the hoop size, it says the selected, and I've got the entire design selected, so 2.5 by 2.5. So if I did 3 of those, I could kind of offset it. I'm thinking a 6x6 will be less stressful for me, because this will be close. So our fabrics are, what was it, 4.5 by 4.5. So our fabrics will overlap, and to me that's just going to be too close. So I'm going to go ahead and change my hoop size right now. You can use a 6x6 hoop, you can use a 6x10 hoop. It absolutely can be done in a 5x7 hoop, but for me I think it'll just be too close. So I'm going to click on this preferences folder, and I'm going to find my 6x6 hoop. And like I mentioned in yesterday's tutorial, this is one I added in myself because I bought it off of Amazon, a 6x6 hoop. And you just add it in. You can create additional hoops. So I'm going to say okay, and you can see it changed, and now my design is outside of the field. It should turn red. That's interesting. It's not turning red. It usually turns red when it's over the hoop like that. All right, so I'm just going to grab it and move it so that it's not over the hoop. All right, and that one is done. Now I want 3 of these, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that design. Make sure you've got all 5 steps of the quilting, and I'm going to say Control C like copy, and then Control V like victory. I know people have a hard time hearing that V, and so I try to give a word so that you know what I'm saying. So Control V like the word victory to paste it. All right, and now we have 2 designs. You can't tell because it's right on top of the other, but you can tell in this objects window. So on this, I'm just going to grab it. When you grab it, so if you were to click here, it's not going to work. You have to click on the stitching to be able to grab it. All right. All right, there's the second one. Now, if you were going to change your thread color, you would just click on this 5th one, this 2-5, and then change the color. Like I said, I'm going to do the same quilting color on all of them, so I'm not going to worry about that. But if you decide to do that, that's how. All right, now I'm clicking outside so that I can get all, actually I've already got it copied from before, I don't have to do that. So I'm just going to hit Control V again, Control V like victory to get a 3rd one, and you can see now I have 3 designs. So again, on the stitching, I'm going to grab it and just bring it down. All right, so there will be a little bit of overlap here between these 2 and actually between here, and that part's not going to stress me out. It's when it's too close, then I don't like it. So I'm using my 6x6 hoop. Like I said, a 6x10 hoop, this would fit, like you'll have no stress whatsoever. You'll have plenty of room. That will work too. Whatever, either way, whatever. All right, so these are done. They are already all colored so that we can do a color sort. So right now we have 15 color steps, but really we can get this down to 5 color steps, and boy, are we going to save a lot of time on that. All right, because then we're not pulling out our hoop to trim the fabric on number 1 and trim the fabric on number 2 and trim the fabric on number 3 over and over. So for all the applique pieces and the batting, Instead, we're going to do them all at once. So super easy to do. I'm going to show you how to do a color sort. Like I said, you can see down here that we have 15 color steps. So I'm going to go to Utility Color Sort. And it thinks, and it says this design page has been reduced by 10 color changes. That means that it's 5 steps now. Super easy. So a couple of things here. Don't forget, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, make sure that you have the same settings that I have to be able to get the same results. And then we always click New View. I highly recommend always clicking New View. You could just go to save it and be done, but if you click New View, then you know for sure what happened and you can check it. I want to always check it. And there have definitely been times where I click New View and I go, oh, that didn't do what I thought it would do. And so I start back from my original because the original is in our Untitled 1 tab. So I'm going to click New View. And you can see it opened up a second tab, right? Here's our first tab that has the 3 different designs. And then in Untitled 2, now it's all down into 1 design. Easy. And look at right down here, 5 color stops. All right, so I'm going to click this plus sign just so I can check it. There is our placement stitch for our batting for all 3 of them, our tack down stitch for the batting, our placement stitch for the main fabric, our tack down stitch for our main fabric, and then the quilting for all 3. Easy, super easy. So if you did the change in the color for the thread so that you can do a black one, a green one, and a gray one, then you'd have, what, 8 color steps probably. So either way will work great. So that is just the quilting. Now we also have to bring in the peppermint design. And actually, you can wait. You can do that color sort right now, or you can do it again, because when we bring in the peppermint, we can do all of those together too. So you can, it's up to you. You can wait. You can do it now. You can go back to this first one. Either way, the outcome is going to be the same. All right, and it'll be easy. Sometimes you have to be careful because once you've color sorted, you can't do that align and distribute. But I know that this peppermint has an outer border, so it'll be super easy to line up. So you don't need to worry about that. All right, so I am going to, excuse Archie, I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File, and I'm going to find that peppermint design. So let's see. I'm going to close up the quilting files, go to Embroidery Files, and the quilt. And we're looking for that peppermint right there. Peppermint Whisk You a Merry Christmas. It says it's a 4x4 design, but it's actually quite small. I'm going to double click on that. It will go to the center, and see what I was talking about, that black line outside that will make it so that we can line this up really easily. So while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and look at the colors so that we can do a color sort so that what we want to will sort and what we don't want to will not, because we're going to be able to do this whole project so much quicker than doing each of these separately, but that's an option if you choose. All right, so here is that second design. I'm going to open this up, and we've got cyan, orange, and then red. And oh, and that's that outer line. All right, so we want to change those cyans and oranges, otherwise they're going to group together. So that will be super easy to do. I'm going to click on 2-1, this first one. That's probably the placement stitch for the white vinyl, I'm guessing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the color, and I'm going to change it to, now notice the first color that comes up is marine, but we used marine. All right, if you're on the same Quiltech Glide or whether you're on a different thread, the first color that comes up will probably be the one that we already used in our quilting. So make sure not to use that, or those will join together. It may not because it's a separate, it's the second file, but I'm not going to chance it. I'm going to go ahead and go to the third color, which is Hawaiian blue. The next color after marine, Hawaiian blue. Say okay. All right, and then here's that 2-2. Click on 2-2, click on the color, and the first color that comes up for me is Halloween, and we have not used that before, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Lily's having fun, and I'm going to say okay. All right, and then 2-3, click on 2-3, then click on the color, and there's that marine, and there's the Hawaiian blue. We want to make sure to go past both of those so that they don't join, and we're going to go to the next color down, which for me is Mercury, and say okay. And then 2-4, click on the color, and we already used Halloween. I'm going to use Butterscotch. I love butterscotch. Butterscotch and caramel, one of my favorite things. All right, and then say okay. And then we have this red that's nowhere else. We don't need to change that. And then we have this black poly neon, whatever it is. It doesn't matter because those can join. All right, so we have that done. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this number 2 design. So all of number 2, you can do it up here or you can do it here. Either way, it doesn't matter. And then we just want to take it and we want to line it up with that outer line. All right, I'm going to move it here just so I can show you. So this is that placement for the batting, and this is the placement for the main fabric, placement and tack down of the main fabric. We are lining up this outer line with that, all right? And really, we don't need it. It's super helpful because we're going to line it up. And you can also zoom in by using your mouse, and you can see we're right on it. That's super easy to do. All right, so you can zoom in if you choose, doesn't matter. All right, and then there's that one. So now remember, I'm going to just, when it calls for laying down the white vinyl, I'm going to do it on all 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do a copy and paste, and I'm going to do all of that again. All right, so I'm going to say Control C. Now that I've got the 2 design, this is the number 2 design, the Peppermint design, the embroidery on top of the quilting. I'm going to say Control C, and then I'm going to say Control V like victory to paste it. It goes right on top of that first one. Did it do it? Yep, there it is. See, you can't tell because it's right on top. But I'm going to drag this, I'm going to grab it and drag it over and line it up right on the placement and tack down stitch of the main fabric on number 2. All right, and then I've already got it copied, so I'm going to say Control V for a 3rd one, and then I'm just going to grab that and bring it down here, lining it up with the placement and tack down of the quilting on number 3. So see what I was saying about you're not going to see much of the quilting? This is what we're going to see. It's just these little bits around the edge. That's okay. That's totally fine. That's all good. All right, so now we have 23 color steps. So one other thing is that we don't need that black outline. I think I'll leave it in because we are going to use a cut guide on this that's more than the basting stitch. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in. Normally I would just take it out, but because as long as we've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, we really don't need that. But I'm going to leave it in, and maybe I'll tell you to bypass it, or maybe we'll stitch it. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's going to be on the outer edge of our design. It's not going to, it'll go into the stitching of the seam allowance. All right, Archer. Sorry. Archie, it's all right. Excuse my dog. We must be getting an Amazon delivery. Archer, stop. Sorry about that. All right. So we can do a color sort again. Right now we have 23 color steps, and it would be even more if we still had the 15 from the quilting. No, Archer, you're fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a color sort so that we can color sort all those peppermints. I'm just closing these designs. You don't have to. I just wanted to see them. So here's our quilting design is number 1, and we've already color sorted those. It will go through the process again, but it doesn't matter. And then here's the 2, 3, and 4 is the 3 peppermints. So I'm going to go to, like I said, we've got 23 color steps, so we should be able to get that quite a bit down. So I'm going to go to Utility Color Sort, and it's thinking, and it says that it's reduced it by 12 color changes. So again, new view. Always click new view so that you can test and make sure, check it and make sure that it did what you think it should do. And don't forget to have these same settings. All right, new view. So now we've got Untitled 3, and everything is together in one design. So let's go ahead and check this real quick here. So there is our placement for the batting, tack down for the batting, placement for the main fabric, tack down for the main fabric, and the 3 quilting designs all together. And then there is our placement for the white vinyl, and our tack down of the white vinyl, our placement of the red vinyl, and the tack down of the red vinyl, and then the decorative stitching on all 3. And then there's that last step, which really we don't need because we quilted in the hoop. It went right over our basting stitch, so I'll probably just bypass that. You could, since it's highlighted here, you can click the delete button on your keyboard, but I'm going to leave it just to remind everyone that we do not need that stitch. It's really just for a placement guide. Excuse me. But you can use it as your cut guide, but it's, like I said, it's right on top of your basting stitch, which we can use as our cut guide. It's the exact same thing. It's for those people that did not quilt in the hoop that don't have those placement stitches. All right, so how many stitches do we have now? We've got 11. So instead of what, probably, I don't know, 35 or something it would have been, we're down to 11. So how cool is that? So I'm going to do a file, save stitch file as. Now notice there's a working file and a stitch file in Embrilliance to save. A working file is more for if you're doing a design that has wording in it. Then you want to save a working file so that you can change that wording if you want. A stitch file is just going to turn it into a PEZ or whatever you use for the format of your machine. So I'm going to say save stitch file as. And then, let's see, looks like I'm already in, yep, I'm already in my folder. So if you're not, you would just click on here and navigate to where you want to save this. You can save it to your desktop if that's easier, whatever works. And I'm going to say 6 by 6 because that's the hoop size I chose. Like I said, you can do it in a 6 by 10. You could do it in a 5 by 7, but for me it's too close. It's too close. Sorry, I'm trying to rush so that I can go get some actual lunch. So 6 by 6, and then I'm going to name it Peppermint, and I'm going to say 3, just so that, because I've got 3 of them all together in one hooping, and I'm going to say save. And then this is where you would put your USB stick into your computer and drag it over to that file, or save it directly to that file, either one. When you do that, you would just, when you say save, you're telling it where to save and direct it to your USB. Or what I always do is I just copy and paste it to my USB stick, because then I also have it on my hard drive in case something happens. So, but for now, I've already saved it to my hard drive, so I'm going to go to Utility, and I'm going to send it to my machine that is on and ready. Your machine has to be on. You have to have Wi-Fi already set up. It's super easy to do on Brother Luminaire or a Baby Lock Solaris, and there's others that it works really well with also. So file sent to machine, so I'm all ready to do just 11 steps. This is going to be so easy. Fun day ahead. So let's go ahead and get stitching. So let's talk about goals. I am loving seeing your goals in the comments. You're telling me how you're doing with your goal, what your goal is. Finding joy. There was a good one. A gal told me about, because I mentioned about my injuries after my 200-mile, the bike crash at mile 88. A gal told me about her soccer injury. That sounded just awful. So, you know, that's the thing. These goals, we push ourselves. We want to be our best selves, and we learn from the adversity. We learn from the difficulties that we come upon, and we grow and we become even better, right? So I'm going to tell you about my first 300-mile bike ride. So one of my cycling friends, John Kaplan, amazing guy. I mean, I used to call him the Energizer Bunny. He literally just would go and go and go and go. And I'm sure he felt all the pain that we all felt when we were doing these big long rides with extreme wind and extreme heat and extreme hills. And, you know, you feel all the things. And yet he just kept going. He was absolutely amazing. Super, super good friend. So he came to me one day and he said, all right, it's time for us to do a triple century. And I was like, are you crazy? Why on earth would anyone ride a bicycle for 300 miles? So I looked into it. The ride was down in Malibu, which pretty cool place to ride a bicycle, except that the funny thing is you start at like 4 o'clock in the morning and you finish at pretty close to 4 o'clock in the morning. And so the part that we're riding in Malibu where it's really pretty and you can hear the ocean, you couldn't see any of it because it was pitch dark. So anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So he says that we should do this, and I thought it was absolutely insane. I had my bicycle, I just had started cycling like 8 months earlier, and here we're going to go do a 24-hour bike ride. You have to finish within 24 hours for it to count toward the California Triple Crown. So he convinced me, and we brought on 3 other people. So there was a team of 4 of us, and we did this big ride, and it's what's it called? The Grand Tour. So the Grand Tour, and it's a beautiful ride. It's really well supported, wonderful people with support systems and the supporting gear driving around to check out, make sure that you're not off trail or off path, I should say, whatever, the off route, and the rest stops, well supported, good people. So it was a good thing, but 300 miles. Who does that? That's crazy. So I thought it was insane. And being the planner that I am, I checked out the whole route and how much climbing there's going to be. And the majority of the climbing was at the end of the ride. Like, you've already ridden like 250 miles and you're going to climb to the end of this ride. It sounded awful. So I planned it all out. I got my route. I rode as much as I could. Button saddle. Remember I told you that yesterday. Button saddle is what gets you strong. The more time doing the thing that is going to build strength and endurance. So I planned out the whole route, and I broke it into sections of 25 miles. And so there's 4, so 8, 12. So there's 12 sections is how I did it. So we're out, we start the ride. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe even 3, I don't remember exactly, but it's pitch dark. We've got all our reflective gear on, and they don't let me pull. So that's one thing is pretty much every group that I've ridden with, they never let me pull because I can get lost in an elevator. Like literally I have no sense of direction whatsoever. So in fact, on one of my rides, it was that first one, that first double century, I got out in front of everybody, and I pulled us up this monster hill, and it turned out that hill wasn't on our route. So there's a reason that they don't let me pull. I definitely have no sense of direction. So anyway, so they're all pulling me along, and I'm in the back, and I'm yelling out, hey, we're 1/12 of the way done. Everybody's like, shut up. I thought it was pretty cool. Like if we did it in sections, then we're getting further along, and they didn't like that so much, but we had so much fun. Like the whole day, everybody stuck together. We had probably 4 flats in the first 20 miles, and we had started with a much bigger group, and yet they were people from our bike club. And so when they had an issue, we'd stop and everybody would help. And then one of the people in our 4-person group said, all right, so we need to stop doing this because they're not doing the 300. We've got a timeline. We can't keep stopping for everything. And so they were really good. They even he taught us that when you get to a rest stop, you grab your food and you go to the restroom, and you're eating while you're standing in line to use the restroom, because there's these porta potties up. And like everything was timed. You couldn't, or at least if you wanted to accomplish within the timeline, our little 4-person group, they were really, really solid. And like they would say, all right, it's time to go. And I'm like, I'm sitting down. I want to relax. I want to hang out at this rest stop. And they're like, no, we got to go. So everybody did really good at keeping everybody on track. This one guy, toward the very end of the ride, one of the guys, big, strong guy with muscles like you can't imagine. Like, you're riding behind this guy and it's just inspiring to ride behind him because he's got just muscle, muscle, muscle. And really quiet though. Like, he didn't say anything the whole ride, like 200 miles, no words out of this person. And really nice guy when you talk to him one-on-one, but during the ride, he didn't talk at all. There was no chatter. And this is a long day, right? So toward the very end of the ride, John, he was tired. We all were super tired, and he's starting to sway too far out into the road and not staying, in our little bike lane. And he yelled at him, and he said a cuss word, and hey, get F out of the road. And that was like the only thing we heard from him the whole day. So I remember that very well. I remember that was like, oh, he speaks. So anyway, we accomplished it. We did a great job keeping everybody on track. Like I said, the end of the ride was all climbing. It was all climbing for quite a while. And it was always so exciting when you get up to the top of the hill and then you enjoy the descent and you get to recover your muscles for a little bit, and then there's the next hill. And so it was really hard for sure. It was a very long day. I think we did it in like 23 hours, something like that. It was a very, very long day. I did not think that we were going to be able to do it, but we did. And everybody got along really well. We had a really fun time. Everything was great. John and I actually did that same ride either the next year or a couple years later, and just me and John. And John is really good at routes. He can figure out, and whereas I'm, clueless, I have no idea where I'm going. I can get lost in an elevator, and he can figure out routes. He was really, really, really good at routes. And so we rode, and I was having a really strong year and doing a lot of miles. And so if I was pulling, I could hear his bike clicked. There's some bikes make that clicking sound, and his did. And so I could always know that he's close enough, because we're out in the pitch dark riding, right? And so I always knew like how much room I could give him. And we've got the little mirrors on the side of our helmets and all of that, but it's dark. So anyway, I always knew how far away he was, and he'd start getting further and further back. And he pulled me over at one time. This was on the one that was just me and him that we had done. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to make it, and I know you're going to make it, and so I want you to go. And I started crying. I'm like, I can't do this by myself. I was so afraid. And I was like, no, we can do this together. We can take turns pulling, and you know how to do it. There's ways to help each other for sure. And he insisted, no, you go. And so I did. I left and just prayed that he was going to make it and that we both were going to be safe. We're out on this route. There's very few people that do the 300 mile. There's probably 100 that do the 200, but very few, like a handful of people do the 300. And so I'm out there totally by myself. And at one point I got very lost, me, right? Of course I did. I got quite lost. I couldn't find the ending. And I never got frustrated. I really enjoyed the process. There were very few cars out. It was pitch dark. It wasn't scary for some reason. It should have been scary, but it wasn't. Probably just knowing John was out there. John's my friend. So anyway, So I get to the end of the ride, and later than I had expected because I got so lost, but I did. I finished the ride in time, got there, and I'm signing in and making sure they have like a marker on your helmet that they do a barcode type thing to make sure that you got in within the time so that it counts toward your Triple Crown. And then John came up and he made it within time, and I was like so excited. So we did that ride twice, at least twice. He went on to try it another time, but he didn't make it. But John was hit by a car and passed away. Not on that ride, and not on a ride with me, thankfully. I can't even imagine, but he was literally the Energizer Bunny. This man rode all the time. He led a bunch of rides. He did a lot for the club. He was really, really amazing guy. And he lost his life right before retiring, right before his first grandchild was born, right before moving away. They were going to move out of California to Arizona with his longtime wife. So that was really hard, as you can imagine. Was a wonderful, wonderful man. But he had this incredible faith in me, absolutely had believed in me and my cycling ability way more than I did. He pushed me to do these amazing rides that I never would have done without him. So anyway, that is my 300-mile journey. I've done 3 of them. I did one just a couple of years ago with my friend Ken that we had planned on doing a 400-mile ride, and we had, oh my gosh, the most crazy weather. Like, we were in Davis, California, and the usual issue for people, DNF, so did not finish. DNF is what you get on your record when you don't finish the event. And the big thing that pulls people out from Davis is heat. And here we had, I think it was 32-degree freezing rain just pouring on us on this ride. And we had started it early and planned to do a 400-mile ride, and we didn't make it. And but we had a great time, except for that freezing cold. I don't like to be cold. I don't do well in cold, and that was an extreme. They ended up right before we DNF'd, or right after we pulled out and said we can't continue. They ended up closing all the roads, and so a bunch of people DNF'd that year, obviously, but we did try. We were doing a 400-mile ride, and I'll tell you more about that on our next video. We had planned on doing 200 miles the day before, and then 200 miles the day of the event for just continue riding, get 400 miles, and it didn't work because of that freezing rain, and the roads flooded and just extreme weather. So that ended up being a 300-mile ride for us, and thankfully we did the 200 the day before or the night before, otherwise we wouldn't have even had that. So so I've done at least 3 triple centuries now, maybe more. More. I did one other that also was supposed to be a 400 and didn't work out, and I'll tell you more about that next time. Anyway, so all of these things that I wanted to point out, like, what is your why, right? So, like I said, John believed in me. John pushed me to do things I thought I could never do. And so we have these people in our lives that I'm looking at this picture of Kim and Chris right now while I'm saying this, and just amazing. We're so thankful to have amazing people in our lives, and they impact us and help us to be who we are. That's all. So that's my 300-mile journey. Tell me about your goal. I want to hear about it. And my shirt today, I love this shirt. It's an old shirt from Fred Meyer. The design, how fun is this? This is an Alphalicious design, I'm pretty sure. I will add a link underneath this video. But it isn't the usual one where you've got the satin stitch holding everything in. It is like a raw edge design. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Triple stitch maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it makes it so that you have like this raw edge that makes it look kind of rustic. I really like it. It's fun. It's different for me because I'm such a perfectionist that I kind of want everything all held in just right. But this raw edge technique is a fun one too. And then of course I added bling, I added some wording, but I will add all the information for the design underneath this video. The shirt is from Fred Meyer. I love this shirt with the hoodie, and it's like a wicking one, but it fits really well. So anyway, I will add information underneath this video. I hope you're enjoying making embroidered shirts. I've been seeing ever since my last tutorial on embroidering shirts and what products are best to get no puckering and placement and all of that. I've loved seeing all the shirts you guys are making.